Okay. Ah. Okay. Huh, I don't know. Oh, that's gonna be weird. What will that do? Yeah, nothing much. Okay. Well, I guess I could just talk to myself for now. about stuff. If anybody gets on the playback, I don't even know if I want to do the playback. I don't know. All I know is the last live stream that I did was a little bit melancholy, just because of the fact that a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, that I had known for many years, decided to commit suicide at my house. And we found him in the pool, deceased. And so it was a little melancholy, the last little broadcast, or whatever you want to call this. But things have kind of gotten a little bit better, so that's been good. So, anywho, figured I'd get on here and do a little bit of live streaming at 12 in the afternoon, and just do a little bit of talking about whatever, who knows. I don't know. One Cigar. Hey, how's it going? Do a little bit of talking about cigars and stuff like that. I've had some people write me some questions on the YouTube channel, and so I kind of wanted to get into those a little bit and talk about that. I have a video of how to fix this thing, right? And it's not comprehensive, but it's funny, like when you put stuff out there on video, people come up with ways to I don't know, say that you're not doing a good enough job, and so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm not doing a good enough job at whatever, why don't you make a video instead of complaining about the video that I made, right? So, but I am thinking about doing a couple more comprehensive things, because people are like talking about other parts of the lighter that can also be tweaked or whatever it is. So, I'm thinking of going in there doing that. But it's just funny how like all the critics come out kind of like this guy right here. Let's throw that up there. And okay, so this guy's great, because he starts off, is this really fixing the lighter? Fixed. I mean, he goes into the whole definition: to repair, to deal with or correct, to attach in some way will not move, to connect or joint physically. What are you doing? My definition is not fixing anything. What you're doing is unscrewing the valve, which in a sense, yeah, I mean, but it does fix the problem. But I have found in people critiquing this thing that there are other things that you can do as well that might fix it, as well as turning up the gas. So, but he goes through this whole long diatribe of stuff, and then at the end, he says, "Yeah, I know, I'm the Captain Buzzkill. Aside from the misleading title, well, he misspelled that. It should be title. And my annoyance at that, I do think your explanation was spot on. Very well done. Thank you for your time and effort, mate. Cheers." Which is kind of funny. That's hilarious, because you get people like that. Dude, this guy, I mean, normally you get the whole critiquing part, but you don't get the thank you for your time and effort made at the end, which really made me laugh, because, the long diatribe, and then at the end he's like, well, at the end of the day, I'm a buzzkill, but thanks for your effort. I really enjoyed that. That was a really good comment on there. I enjoyed that quite a bit. But, anyway, so, but I had another one here. Okay, this guy, just don't understand how cigars stay humidified inside Ziploc bags, inside Tupperware containers away from a humidity source. Is the point just to collect them or keep them in smoking condition, or even cigars sealed in a jar or tubos away from humidity for 30 years. How are these things in smoking condition? I even had a dealer telling me the cigars were in a sealed box. They could sit in a warehouse sans humidity for months. A sealed box is just a matter of an uncut stamp of origin. It's not airtight, so how does that make any sense? Okay, first of all, that's a very long thing, and it's better to do it orally, I think, than to write everything out on that question. So the way that things stay humidified inside Ziploc bags, and I happen to have a Ziploc bag here, is the fact that it's sealed. So you seal up the Ziploc bag, and anything that is with that box that you seal in the Ziploc bag is going to stay with it. Now there's a neat little way you can check your hygrometer is with the Ziploc bag. And what you do is you get a Ziploc bag in your hygrometer. You get like a cap. You can do it with a cap like this. Fill it up with table salt. And then you throw a few drops of water in there and make it damp. And then you throw the cap inside the Ziploc bag. And then you throw your hygrometer inside the Ziploc bag and you seal it up for about, 2 to 4 days. Somewhere in there. You seal it up for a lengthy period of time. It's between 2 and 4 days. I can't remember what it is. And then that will give you an accurate read on your hygrometer, because the relative humidity that is released by salt in that state in the cap is 72%. So if your hygrometer reads 72%, then you're good. If it reads 69%, then you know you're minus 3% relative humidity, and you can put like a little sticker on the hygrometer and do that, and so on and so forth. So anyway, but that's so people have been doing that for a long period of time. Now, what I have done as well is I've opened up many sealed boxes on here of aged stuff, and they seem to be in pretty good shape. So now some of them have a snap to them, and as far as airtight goes, I'm not sure exactly like how airtight they are. I know they're sealed up pretty good with against air and the elements and so on and so forth, especially the older boxes. When you get like some of the older, like from the 80s and stuff like that on back, the Papletta, they put the Papletta over the entire box. And so, they would seal that thing up and then put the Papletta all the way around it. Nowadays they don't do that. It's not, the Papletta doesn't go over all of the cracks of the box. It just gets kind of sealed in there though. But I think that it does it. They do a pretty fairly good job with sealing stuff up on that box. So I mean, it may not be airtight, but I think it's fairly tight on there when they do something like that and they seal it out of the factory, put a nail in it, boom, and then it's there. I think that that's pretty sealed up pretty nicely. And so as far as being able to keep them in a sealed box without humidity, I mean, it's not recommended that you do something like that, but yeah, because those cigars are in that sealed box basically, which has got a fairly decent seal to it. And the only way that that moisture or humidity is going to escape or get reintroduced into the box is through the actual cedar itself. That's either, if it's a dress box, it's paper covering cedar. If it's a regular box, let's just call it, because it's slipping my mind, a wooden box or a cabinet or whatever it is, the moisture is going to escape and go through that, and so on and so forth. So, and I've talked with people about this, and they seem to think that as far as it goes for that's kind of like the standard in that sense, right? Get a lot of other people in there too that also say that you should breathe your cigars and everything like that, and I think that that's like kind of more old school in the sense of like that. I think that came from Zeno Davidoff's book, which was in the 60s, where he was talking about breathing your cigars and stuff like that. I really don't think that, I don't really subscribe to that point of view where you need to breathe your stuff and everything like that. I'd say if you have a sealed box of cigars, leave it sealed in the humidor and let it age and let it do its thing for time, and then when you're ready to open the box, you open up the box. And a lot of people say that they're like concerned about bugs or whatever it is in there, and I'm going to say this again. I've opened up many sealed boxes of cigars, and I've never encountered bugs. That doesn't mean that it can't happen, but for me personally, I'm not worried about bugs. Not me personally. And so, as far as it goes for this question on here, if you're going to collect or smoke or whatever, keeping the box sealed, I think, is the best course of action to do on that. So then once you open up the box and you let more air in there and let things escape and stuff, then you can assess and ascertain like what you need to do with the cigars at that point in time. Because you have cigars that might need a lot more time to age, and so you're going to lay them back down again. But if you're just going to go for an initial aging on cigars or whatever it is, just throw that sealed box in there, and I think you're going to be good to go. I would not suggest not keeping it humidified, but that's just, you don't want to do that. So, this was another question here that I had. Where is it? I can't find it. Somebody was talking to me about what I do for aging cigars and the humidification process and everything like that on there. And so, I made a good video about that where I kind of put other people's information and stuff like that in there on that. Now, for long-term aging, you don't need a lot of humidity because you're going to be doing it at a really low temperature. Like I showed in that video where the Sahakians, Eddie and Edward, have a humidor down below the Davidoff shop that keeps the stuff in the 50 degrees range with 50% humidity for their cigars for long-term aging. And so a lot of people freak out on that, like where the oils of the cigar is going to go and everything like that, blah, blah, blah. Well, seems to do a pretty good job of aging your cigars when it's at a lower humidity and a lower temperature. It seems to slow the process down, and it seems to it seems to just make the aging process work a whole lot better. So as far as it goes for aging your cigars, if you're going to do long-term aging, I would suggest 53 degrees in America. I don't know what that is in non-English simplified countries, and about 50 some odd percent relative humidity. You're not going to go wrong with that, I don't think, to be quite honest. And if you have a sealed box, voila, you're like it's magic. And I don't know how many videos of people have watched or whatever, but they where it does that snap. I love that snap, but that to me tells me that box is pretty sealed up. And I mean, I've had some struggles with cigar boxes because they've been sealed so tightly over the years, like a 30 or 40-year-old box, and it'll snap open, and it's kind of hard at times to open that box. But at the end of the day, a sealed box, low humidity, low temperature, and you want to do that for decades, I don't think you can go wrong on that. So that's kind of a couple of the questions that people had that I'm going to answer on that, and then we can talk about this cigar. So This cigar, this brand of cigars, as you may or may not know, I don't know, I've been smoking a lot of New World stuff along with Cuban stuff because I like to dip my toe in all different waters. So, Aganorsa leaf. These cigars, well, the box says that these are like 2 years old, right? They've been aged 2 years in the box, and blah, 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 blah. This is the Signature Series Aganorsa leaf. So, this is, I guess, the Corona Gorda or whatever it is. They have different sizes. And when they smoke well, the flavors on these cigars are quite good. I mean, this is a pretty nice cigar to smoke. It's quite nice cigar to smoke. The problem with these Signature Series cigars, though, has been the construction. Like, I've had the Robustos and some various other ones that I've smoked of those, and I was smoking a Robusto the other night, and it had a hole in there. Like, there was a tunnel hole in the thing that was massive. It was probably the size of, as a matter of fact, it was about the size of that perfect draw tip going down the and then it went down for probably about that far into the cigar. And then what happened is it stopped, and then I got two smaller holes in the cigar. So the cigar was like a wind tunnel, and there was no smoke production. Tons of wind going, through the cigar, tons of air, but no smoke production at all whatsoever. And that's the problem I've had with those cigars, is they smoke great. I mean, they're like, this is a really good cigar, a decent tobacco, great, I think. The flavors are good on these cigars, but at the end of the day, if the construction's not there, and what I've been having a problem with these too, is the fact that now it might just be that the tobacco is still a little moist after 2 years, which that is definitely a possibility. So I've dry boxed these, but yeah, is they will be super tight too. So what I found on these is that what you can do before you smoke it is you just kind of roll it in your fingers and give it a little bit of pressure all the way through the cigar, and you can feel the spots that are maybe a little bit tight. Like there was a tight spot right in here, and so I rolled it in there and kind of rolled out the cigar a little bit before I even cut and lit the cigar, and that seemed to help with it, along with dry boxing the cigars. That seemed to help the cigars quite a bit. But like I said, it's the construction on those cigars has been quite off. But I mean, the Aganorsa Leaf Signature Series, I really like the flavor of those cigars. They're really good. Oh, I did a that L40 Liga. I actually like that cigar. I don't like Liga Privada personally. I really don't personally like a lot of Drew Estate stuff, to be quite honest. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Drew Estates. And Liga is definitely not one of the ones that I'm like, oh yeah, you got to smoke a Liga Privada. I mean, I'm definitely not that. But out of the Liga Privadas, that one seems to... I did a review on it. And that one seems to be like the most mild, so to speak, of the Ligas. It didn't have that big nose burn and everything like that in there. And that one has some really good flavor to it. Because what I did is I smoked that. I got a box of the L40s, and I've been smoking them. And I'm like, okay, well, now to my recollection, I remember the other Liga Privadas were like really harsh and strong and girthy and all that other kind of stuff. And and it was so I ended up buying a few other Ligas just to see if I was right, and I was right. The L40 is really nice. It's got some beanie notes in there that are really pleasant, and it's got some good smoke production. on it. The construction's good on it, and plenty of smoke, and it doesn't do that whole. A lot of times with the New World stuff, where you get that really heavy nose burn, where it just like screws up your nose quite a bit. So that's good. So, and this one's smoking good. But I'm not a big fan of Drew Estate stuff. I mean, when you think about it, their logo is some dude hammering a nail into his nose. So what does that tell me? It tells me if I retrohale that cigar, I'm going to have a nail in my nose. I mean, it's like, do I want to experience with a cigar like that? I don't think so. I don't want to have have it feel like I'm having pins and needles stuck up my nose when I'm smoking a cigar, because I retrohale a cigar quite a bit. So that, to me, that logo just does. I don't get that logo. I don't know why they did that logo, how they did that, what the reasoning is behind that. I don't know. Maybe that it's just such a strong cigar, But people go crazy over the Drew Estates brand. I get it. The Herrera Esteli portion of it, there's some Herrera Esteli cigars in there that I like to smoke that are pretty good. That I enjoyed those Herrera Estelis quite a bit. But as far as it goes for the regular Drew Estates and then, all that other stuff, I'm not really a big fan of Drew Estates. So that's just me, Yeah, Ligas are just too much. But I think, part of that, though, too, is the fact that, I could be wrong. This is all speculation on my part. Is that if you're smoking Liga Privadas, you're probably not a big retrohaler of a cigar. You probably don't retrohale a cigar very much. And if you do, it's probably by accident. Because for me, the Liga Privada is, because it's so strong in the nose that really the flavor that you're going to get is on the palate. You get that mouthfeel and that feel on the palate. And that's where you're going to get your flavors, mostly. And then your secondary flavors are going to be whatever comes through your nose or whatever it is, by accident or whatever. So, okay. All right, Myron. Athens, Greece. Ready to go. But, so I just think that, and I think a lot of the New World stuff, and that's kind of why I like these, though, is because they're not your typical New World burn your nose out, heavy mouthfeel kind of a cigar, which I like. The construction on these cigars just sucks. They need to be more consistent with their construction on this cigar. But I think that, the appeal of New World, a lot of the New World stuff is the fact that the fermentation and the finishing and all that other kind of stuff with the age of the tobacco and so on and so forth, that the cigars are ready to smoke now. They don't age that well, I don't think. That's my own personal opinion, is that because of that finishing process that they've done with the cigars to where they're ready to smoke now, I don't think that they have the aging potential like, say, some of the Cuban stuff. Now, with that being said, I think that the Cubans have kind of joined the party, and they are doing kind of similar stuff that the non-Cuban community has been doing, so that the cigar's ready to smoke now, that you don't buy a box of cigars and have to lay it down for a number of years in order for it to be smokable. I think you run into that less and less moving forward with the Cuban side of the cigar equation as well. And so, because, basically if you sell a product that needs to be aged because of the way that it's been processed, are you really going to like that cigar? You might make this mistake of opening up the box and it smells like a barn, and you smoke that stuff and you're like going, God, that's an awful cigar. It tasted like ammonia. It tasted like ammonia cleaner and, scattle. And it was really super bitter. And so you're like, I don't want to smoke a cigar like that. Well, no, nobody wants to smoke a cigar like that. You need to age a cigar like that, especially if there's ammonia and a lot of barnyard coming out of the box and off of the cigar, and it's really bitter. I mean, those are 3 telltale signs right there that you need to lay that cigar down and let it age, because that stuff needs to wick out. Now, depending on this types of cigars or whatever it is, it depends on how long you're going to have to lay it down to do it. But that's kind of like the fun of the hobby of collecting cigars and then smoking them and so on and so forth, is the fact that you buy cigars and then you lay them down, and then you get to experience the maturation process of these cigars over the years. And that's part of the fun of the hobby. Like, you might have a cigar that you smoked 5 years ago that was not that good, and then 5 years later, like today, say, you fire that thing up and you're like going, God dang, that's a pretty tasty cigar. I mean, that's done pretty well. And so that's part of the hobby. Now, I think another part of the hobby, though, too, is the fact that I think people have become a lot more impatient with things, and I think that the Cubans have caught up with all of the New World manufacturers in the sense of, like, okay, we want to make something that's smokable now, and that way people can move on. And it's kind of like, with the Cuban stuff and the New World stuff, but let's just concentrate on Cuban stuff, like that punch short to punch right there, or a lot of the regional stuff, the limitada stuff, all of the like kind of niche-y kind of things that they've created. It's kind of like baseball cards back in the day. People were buying brand new baseball cards because they were like really hot and they would go up in value. It's kind of like the stock market and so on and so forth. And so people have bought into that, and so they are able to get away with making more of that stuff, kind of one-offs and everything like that, so that people will just buy more down the road. And it's not as contingent on the brand, so to speak, because the government owns every brand of Cuban cigar that's made, right? They own all of them. I mean, back in the day, right, Jaime Partagas owned the Partagas factory and the Partagas cigars. So Jaime Partagas was in charge of, like, making those cigars a certain way, right? And that was their trademark and so on and so forth. And now it's kind of like this big thing that's owned by one person or entity, and so they don't really need to have as much, I guess, quality control or whatever. They just need to sell cigars. That's all they're concerned about, is selling cigars, right? That's all they want to do. And at the end of the day, I don't think that they really care how... I mean, I'm sure that there is some thought process as to how good it is, but I don't think that there's that same pride of ownership, I guess, so to speak, as, like, the New World stuff, right? I mean, when you own all the brands, does it really matter? As long as you're selling the cigars, or you're creating a gimmick to where you're going to sell a cigar, does it really matter at the end of the day? Not really. As long as they're selling them. And I think that's why we have a problem with quality control with Cuban cigars over the years. It's just that, do they have to fix it? Now, if you had... let's say Drew Estate. If Drew Estate was selling boxes of cigars where half of the box is plugged, you bet that they would figure out a way to fix that shit. And they did, right? They have figured out, New World manufacturers are pretty good at that. And the Cuban, it's just that there's no pride of ownership, And so at the end of the day, like I said, they make something, Cohiba gets better, I guess, quality control as opposed to some of the other brands and things like that. But at the end of the day, as long as people are buying that stuff, it doesn't really matter. So I think that's where you run into a problem with that. But like I said, though, the Cubans, One thing I think that they have found out is the fact that they want people to smoke it and then buy more. And that's what the New World people have figured out, that formula, right? They'll release a cigar, and they released quite a few. I think CAO started it way back, where they would release a different cigar. Like every 6 months, they would have something coming out brand new, and everybody was like clamoring after to buy a CAO cigar because it was a different new thing, and it didn't necessarily have to be all that great. It just had to be different and new, and then you could hype it up. And as long as every cigar has a story. The ones that sell good, I think, have a story, and the ones that sell for a lot of money, I think, have a story as well. You know, you have that story, you have that backstory and everything like that with the cigar, and then, you know, rolling through that, it sells cigars, and then you create another story for another cigar or whatever it is, and you know that's what sells cigars, is people clamoring after. You create a shortage or whatever it is. You create a rarity. Steve Saka did that with his unicorn. He created a rarity with that cigar, that unicorn cigar. I haven't smoked it. I think it's a pretty insane amount of money for that cigar. And so, but you create these stories, and that's what sells cigars, and so on and so forth too. So, and I think that as far as it goes for the mainline stuff from Cuba, I mean, as you see the portfolio of them, all the brands, like the, you know, shrinking, right? That stuff is shrinking. What seems to be more prevalent now is all of the limited, regional, one-off, you know, Humidor stuff, blah, 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 all that other kind of stuff seems to be more what they're doing, which is smart, I think. You know, as far as a marketing sense goes, marketing formula for cigars, you definitely want to do something like that, because it's going to work out pretty good for you, I think, at the end. Yeah. I mean, you know, the Cubans do it, the non-Cubans do it. Everybody does it, I think. And so, at the end of the day, you know, there's a story there, you know, and that's good marketing. That's really good marketing when you do something like that. You know, like, it was, you know, laid to rest and baby's breath and whatever you want to, you know, talk about the. I remember listening to something that Steve Saka was doing where he was talking about the Sober, I think it was the Sober Mesa cigars when he first came out with Sober Mesa, how they would lay them out in the pilones or pilones or whatever. I'm Spanish simplified, and I'm sorry if I butchered the Spanish language. I'm sorry. I try my best. Anyway, that they would lay them out in a certain way, and then the tobacco was taken care of, and then all this kind of stuff. And, you know, you weave this tale of a cigar, and at the end of the day, you know, I think that's what'll sell stuff for you. But anyway, Maganor Lee's signature selection. It's a tasty cigar. The problem is that the construction's off on these things a lot of the time, and I don't know. I like the cigar. I'd like it if it smoked better most of the time, but it is what it is. And they're cheap. They're not. It's not that expensive of a cigar too, so that's pretty good. So, but I got a chance to talk to Min Rodney on the phone last weekend, and he's doing good. There's they still have a quarantine over there because you know, the plan was for me to kind of go over there at least once a year, kind of hang out and stuff, and do, you know, smoke cigars and talk and all that kind of stuff with them once a year, and then it's been kind of rough. So hopefully next year I'll be able to do a visit in March, I'm hoping, but I don't know. I don't know if this is going to ever shake out where the whole world's kind of open or whatever. I don't know. I mean, travel is definitely not going to be the same moving forward. So, who knows what's going to happen. But I'm getting kind of smoked out here. I'm going to turn some fans on, so it might up the ambient noise, but I need to get some air. There we go. A little bit cooler now. Okay, so, but yeah, the last little live stream wasn't that up, I guess, so to speak. It wasn't that up. So yeah, a lot of things have happened for me in the past couple of months that haven't been all that great. And but it's life. I mean, life has its ups and downs, so you can't always be on an up, and you can't always be on a down, I think, too, as well. But yeah, so here in the States, yeah, I keep hearing about, beds getting full up and everything like that. And, here we have states. You have states' rights and you have federal rights or whatever. State laws, federal laws. So the states have quite a bit of autonomy over certain things unless it becomes a federal law, and then that is enacted over the whole country. So it's a unique kind of a system that we have here. And so... they're saying that, things in the middle of the country are kind of backed up or whatever. There's a lot of people that are getting sick there, and not so much on the edges of the country. So, I don't know. I mean, where I'm at, it's okay. Everything's fine. I mean, it's good. And so... I don't know about other parts of the country because I'm not there. It's a pretty big country, so there's a lot going on all over the place, and I've just kind of like stopped watching the news and all that other kind of stuff. So every now and then I'll get a few blurbs and everything like that on, when I'm reading a web page or something like that, I'll get a blurb on it. So I've been kind of disconnected with stuff, especially since, I got in that accident in June, so I've been kind of homebound for a couple of months. So I've just been kind of staying at home, smoking cigars, and watching baseball. And just kind of staying away from the news. But I've heard that things are kind of bad, but not around here. So I wish I had more information for you, but I don't on that. And, and that's the whole thing, too, is as far as it goes for, political points of view and points of view, whatever it is, and so on and so forth with that kind of stuff. I mean, me personally, especially if I'm here talking about cigars, definitely don't want to get into, my point of view on the way things should be run. That's just ridiculous. For me, that's my own personal opinion, so that's why I don't really get into it. Yeah, I mean, I've been working, before the accident, I was working stuff to, I did, during the pandemic, I flew to Sydney, I flew to Singapore, I flew to Hong Kong, Hawaii a bunch of times, and I think the EU, I just read that the EU banned U.S. from whatever, what did they say? they didn't actually come out and do it. They just said that you should think the better for doing it, which means to me, like, well, you should do it, but we can't tell you what to do. And so, but yeah, I mean, a lot of flights are open now, and actually United said that they're hiring flight attendants moving forward. So things are starting to get back. I think that they've just kind of found a way to generate income other than doing it from the old model. I think that they've had to revamp the model of how they're making their money, and then they've done that moving forward. But yeah, I think that now to go down to Australia, that's you got to be quarantined down there, and so those flights, those are empty. Canada, I think, is opening up. Canada's not good, but Mexico, Latin America, everything like that has been open pretty much all the way through. You had to have like a negative test to get down there in certain spots, but all that stuff has been good. In Europe, I think they finally opened that up a bit. How about Greece, man? How's Greece doing over there? You guys had a bit of a rough time, a rough go for a while, right? What? I'm sorry, Fran. I just saw this. Why don't you put your screen big? Yeah, rough winter. Yeah. A big screen. Let's see here. Yeah. There we go. The reason I don't do this is because I'd rather someone has something to look at other than my mug talking. To be quite honest. That's why, Fran. So, gives people something else to look at besides looking at my stupid mug talking. Oh, you guys had a lot of fires. Okay, yeah. You know what? Actually, our fire season is right now, and man, Lake Tahoe's like, I love going to Lake Tahoe. It's beautiful up there, and I guess they've got a bunch of fires going on up there and stuff, so it's crazy. Oh, that sucks. That really sucks. So you have to pay full pop on your cigar. That kind of sucks. So no traveling at all. That's really kind of shitty. I mean, I can think of worse places to be stuck. I mean, being stuck in Greece. I mean, Greece is a nice country, right? Yeah. I mean, they have a place here called Death Valley. Now, that's not a place I would want to be stuck at. Is Death Valley? It's a nice country with expensive cigars. Oh man, yeah. I think after a while, I mean, unless you have like unlimited funds or whatever it is, like certain people have, it all comes down to trying to find an everyday smoker cigar that you're not going to be like breaking your wallet with, and something that's going to smoke pretty good, and it's not going to cost you a bunch of money to smoke when you smoke it. And I think the longer that you smoke cigars, at least for me, the longer that I smoke cigars, the more I'm trying to find. I mean, okay, so I think in the beginning when you start smoking cigars, it's just so great because you have so much variety and everything like that. And then for me what happened is I wanted to find that $30 cigar and a $5 cigar, right? And that just was not going to happen. And so then it became, okay, I'm going to smoke a $30 cigar, I'm going to smoke a $5 cigar, or whatever. And then now it's like, okay, I can smoke a $30 cigar, but I'm also going to smoke the $5 cigar, and I know it's not going to taste like a $30 cigar for the most part. I mean, every now and then you do find a cigar that's in the low budget range where it's a pretty good cigar, and it's like, wow, I mean, this cigar is definitely worth more than $5. But it's not going to be like an ethereal experience at the end of the day. And I think that's where it's come down to, for me now, is the fact that, I have a wide range of stuff to fit the mood for my smoking pleasure. And then at the end of the day, I just kind of pick what my mood is. And I know that, I'm going to smoke this $5 cigar. I think this was a $5 cigar. I think that's what this was, is $5. And I'm going to enjoy it. Because I've experienced so many other things, and that's why I keep trying to experience other things as well, is because I keep trying to find more of those hidden gems. So, and Aganorsa Leaf, they're onto something there. It's just that their construction quality is just not that good at times. Good cigar. But at least for me, that's the way it worked out, I mean, starting out, and cigars have gotten so much more expensive. I mean, over, 30 years or whatever, cigars have steadily gone up, higher price. And I think that over the past 10 years at least, cigars have really gone up, and I credit that to social media and this newer cigar boom that we've had that's lasted quite a while, I think, where people are smoking cigars. So, yeah. And then taxes as well. I mean, taxes have just, just really made it hard to, find a cigar. I mean, back... It's like, oh man, I remember that cigar was $1. And it's like, well, it ain't $1 anymore, man. I mean, you can find a $2 cigar or a $1 cigar, but they're pretty low quality cigars. Nothing wrong with a low quality cigar, but it just depends. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I answered some questions on here about from people on here. I guess I was doing a Cohiba Lancero from 1986, and I guess in the video I mentioned that it's around $400 a stick, and this guy, it's $400 a stick. That's crazy. That is crazy. That is crazy. But I mean, so it's $15,000 for a bottle of wine. That's crazy too. But people are lining up to buy that. But although I was talking to a guy, a wine merchant, me and my girlfriend used to go into this place in LA, and they had really great customer service, and the people there that were working there were really knowledgeable on wine. And the guy, he mentions the fact, he goes, okay, listen, he goes, you have your $15,000 bottles of wine, you have your $7,000 bottles of wine, you have your $1,500 bottles of wine. He goes, you know, the proportion of, what do they call it? The amount of, between a $15,000 wine and a $1,500 bottle of wine, it's so minuscule as to, like, the amount of, let's just say goodness, because I had a loss for words here, but it's just so, he said that basically he would buy if he could afford one bottle of 15,000, he would buy 10 bottles of the 1,500, because your trade-off in dollars to enjoyment of the wine is so minuscule that it's really almost undiscernible unless you're like a really heavy connoisseur of wines and so on and so forth, and that's all you drink. And so, yeah, as far as it goes for cigars, yeah, there's some stuff out there that's pretty incredible. I mean, it's going to be an incredible smoking experience. It's going to cost you a lot of money at the end of the day, and that's just the fact that it's been driven up because people are willing to pay whatever the price is for that cigar at the end of the day, because it's that good too, right? You have to have that factor as well, because you can't like market a turd at, you know, $1,000 a stick and expect people to buy it if it's not good. You know, if it's a turd, it's a turd, you know. And I bought some expensive stuff that's like, I wish I hadn't. I mean, I am glad that I had bought it to experience it and to know that that cigar is not that good. But at the end of the day, usually when a cigar is really, really expensive to smoke, a lot of times it is as good as the price tag on it. Not always, but there's a good proportion of that being the reason that it's that way. So, yeah, 400 a stick. That was, yeah, it was a good stick. Especially a Lancero too, because the Lancero, when the Lanceros age, they really get, you know, they lose all of that. A lot of times people will buy Lanceros, and the Lanceros will be plugged. They'll think it's plugged. And really, all that is the fact that there's a lot of Ligero in that Lancero, and it's moist, and so you have to let that cigar age between 3 and 5 years just so that it starts to open up. And then when you have one that's like 35 years old or 40 years old, I mean, it's just, it smokes really good. I mean, and it's a different experience whatsoever from, you know, a 5-year-old Lancero to a 30-year-old Lancero. It's just way different experience. On top of that, though, the tobacco's different. And so you're running into that issue as well, right? You get, you know, the new strains of Cuban tobacco that they have out there, the yields are higher. They're able to grow more tobacco, but I think the trade-off of that is the fact that the strength maybe is diluted on that tobacco. It doesn't have the same flavor profile as the older tobacco. Like what Criollo 98 and Corojo 99 was like the last gasp before they started getting into all of the other stuff when they changed over, I think in 2000, and they changed over a lot of those strains of tobacco to the newer strains. And I don't even know what they're up to now as far as it goes for strains of tobacco that they're growing over there, but it's whatever it is, Havana something or other. Although I've heard that they're actually letting farmers grow that older Criollo and Corojo from back in the day. They're letting farmers grow some of that stuff. I don't know how true that is, but that'd be kind of nice. Because what I would like to see with Cuban cigars, myself personally, is, yeah, they need to sell cigars because they have to survive and so on and so forth. But I think what they should do is every year, they should do old school, like old style, retro fermentation, packaging of cigars. So you have all the stuff that they do with their new processes or whatever that they do for fermentation and processing their tobacco, and then they should do a certain limited amount of cigars where they do, with the old style fermentation where like you open up the box, it's going to smell like a barnyard. There's a lot of ammonia in there. And I think that they should do that with a certain amount of cigars as well, so that the connoisseur or the aficionado can purchase those boxes and, kind of like, what is it? Yeah. See, original taste Coke, right? So they have, back in the day, what was it, a number of years ago, they changed the taste of Coke, right? They had the new taste of Coke. People went, I don't like that. And some people said, oh, that's great. It's better than the old Coke. So it's something like that, where it's like, it won't say original taste, but, old style, farm style, I don't know what they can use to discern that, but that if you're getting a box of those cigars, that you need to lay those things down for a minimum of 3 to 10 years before you're going to smoke them. And I think that would actually be a pretty decent selling point for the Cuban cigar industry. I think that you would get a lot of people that would be clamoring just to get those boxes because of the fact that you're going to buy them, you're going to put them in your humidor, you're going to let them rest for a number of years, and then when you pull them out, it's going to be like the old style back in the day when you would get stuff and age it, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and the aging would really make a markable difference on that cigar. But I'm not in charge of a band, as I say. But if I was, I would definitely do something like that. And I would do it probably with the global brand first. So I would do like a Monte Cristo No. 2 or Partagas D4, Romeo Exhibition No. 4, a Cohiba. Well, you'd have to go back. Wouldn't be an Esplendido. Cohiba Lancero would be, old school. And just do those 5 global brands, and then kind of like bring it out to some of the other stuff, because I know that there's probably some people would want some Iona specially selected that way. St. Louis Rays or La Glorias, or definitely Bolivar, Royal Coronas and Bellicosos. Definitely they would want some Bolivars that way as well. Yeah, I don't think it's aging that well, and you know what? I think that the barometer to that is the Anahados. The Anahados series of Cubans, which I believe they discontinued doing Anahados, where Cuba was aging them in the box, for 5 or 7 years, and then putting them out on the market, right? And so a lot of those Anahados are like terrible. They're just not that good. And and I think part of it too, though, is the fact that they might have an issue with storage, because you need a temperature controlled and humidification controlled environment for storing those cigars, and I don't think that they have the capacity to be able to do that. And so I think that what you're finding with the Anahata series is that when you age a cigar at 70 or whatever it is, I think the ambient average is 72% throughout the year of relative humidity, and the temperature is quite high as well. When you don't have that type of temperature controlled and humidity controlled environment, you find that your cigars do not age that well. And then you couple that with the way that they're doing the fermentation process and the processing of the tobacco now, you're finding that that's what the stuff that they're coming out with now, how that's going to possibly age. Now, granted, if you get that box at your house, you can control the environment better than I think they can in Cuba in bulk. At the end of the day, I think the aging of cigars, of these newer cigars, is not going to be as good as the older stuff that's still aging well today, because of the fact of I think the way that they used to process and ferment and everything with the tobacco back in the day. And so, yeah, I don't see the cigars having a shelf life like they did before. And that's why I would like for the Cubans to do a small batch of cigars where they do use all the old methods, and even if they can, which I'm sure that they could possibly have like a few of the growers do this, you know, where they say, hey, we're going to give you these old seeds and we want you to plant that, and we're going to harvest all your tobacco from that, and we're going to pay you for that, and you know, this is what you're going to get. We want that so that we can put this off to the side, do it the old style way. I think it's totally doable. I really do. But I think is a lot different from I know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's go down. There we go. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, I kind of like this. Is, you know, just a few people. It's intimate. But for me, it's just about having a cigar and smoking it and talking with people about stuff. And it's not about how popular someone can be. Because I know I'm not popular. I'm just a knucklehead. But it's never been about that for me, about being popular. It's just about trying to disseminate as much information as I possibly can. So yeah. Yeah, so I'm hoping to get over to Hong Kong next year. Oh, I've got my fingers crossed. So it'd be kind of nice to be able to go over there again and hang out and see what a real collection of cigars looks like. That man has got a lot of stuff. The breadth of that collection that he has is pretty wide. Yeah, I would suppose that if you're watching this on your phone, it would be kind of... Oh, he's getting up there. He's, I mean, he's not ancient. Hey, buddy. Hey, Chris. He's not ancient, but he's getting up there in age, you know. Let's say he's past middle-aged. Let's just say that. But he's not old and decrepit by any means. Guy goes to work like every day of the week. I mean, I think he's stopped going to work on Sundays, though. I think he's working 6 days a week now. So, and I don't see any signs of him slowing down. I really don't. The guy's just, he's an animal. He's an animal. Every day. Does he even? Yeah, you say does he? Yes. Yeah, he smokes. Yeah, he's not a. That's another thing. That's a curious thing too. Is like, there's collectors out there that never smoke their cigars, and no, he smokes his cigars. But I think his collection is so big that he can smoke cigars out of his collection and and rotate that to where it's not going to be like you or me, where it's not where like, okay, so say you have a collection of cigars which is on a much smaller scale, and you have one box of these cigars that's like special to you. I mean, you crack that box open, it's like, oh shit, and then they're gone. With his stuff, he's got so many of them that it doesn't really put a dent in things. If he smokes, some Monte Cristo from 1985 or whatever it is that he smokes, or whatever, or even the 90s. He smokes a lot of stuff from the 90s, and it's not going to put a big dent in things for him. So he's got plenty of cigars. I don't think he's got so many cigars. I don't think he could smoke them all in the rest of his lifetime. As a matter of fact, I know he's got so many cigars that probably everybody on here, including him, could not smoke in our lifetimes. I think, personally, he's got that many cigars. He's got a huge collection of cigars, and the breadth is just amazing. Yes, I smoke bad vintage cigars. Absolutely. There's a lot of pre-embargo cigars out there that are really terrible. They're just past it. And I don't know whether it's the fact that... Because a lot of the pre-embargo stuff that I've smoked have been like, singles, doubles of stuff that have been out of the box, and you don't really know what the provenance is of that stuff, and so yeah. But yeah, I've smoked bad vintage cigars. I've smoked, just because you have a vintage cigar, just because that cigar is old and it's been aged, does not mean that it's going to be the best smoking experience of your life. Absolutely not. I always say this, vintage Davidoffs I think are past it, personally. But I've smoked a lot of bad vintage Davidoffs, Cuban Davidoffs, and yeah. So just because a cigar is old doesn't mean that it's going to be a great smoking experience. So that saying that you get what you pay for holds true some of the time, and then some of the time it's the king's not wearing any clothes, and people have a tendency to ignore the fact that the king is not wearing any clothes. I don't know if you know that story. And so people, they're afraid to say that, oh, this cigar was crappy, because they paid, $1, $2, $3, $4, $500 for the cigar. It's like, oh my God, I paid $500 for the cigar. It better be good. And that's not always the case, unfortunately. And, it comes down to a lot of factors. And so it just depends on the provenance. Now, I must say that the stuff that I've been gifted by Min Ron Nee, that stuff, I know the provenance. They're his cigars and so on and so forth. And those have been pretty amazing cigars, pretty good cigars for the most part. I mean, they wouldn't rate 100s. Not all of them would rate 100 or anything like that. But, at the end of the day, they smoke well. Yeah, exactly. So, well, I think I said so first of all, Myron, yes, people are posting that stuff. And the thing is that, like I said, the reason that we have a cigar boom now is the fact that people are going, look at me, I got this vintage pre-embargo, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's, of course they're not going to say it's a shitty cigar. Whereas, I will say, like that Fonseca, that vintage Fonseca, it just tasted like paper. I mean, it was a beautiful presentation and everything like that. It was probably a great cigar back in the day. But by the time I got it, it was not. It was not a tasty cigar. It didn't taste good at all. I mean, it was like, it was basically like paper, and But that's a 100-year-old cigar, and I wasn't expecting much from that. Usually, when the cigar gets, usually when a cigar's like that, when it's pre-embargo, I'm not expecting a whole lot from a pre-embargo cigar. Definitely. But there are certain cigars that seem to have managed to maintain or maintain their smokability over the years. But that vintage Fonseca was not one of them. It was just a really good looking cigar, and it was an experience that, yeah, I smoked a cigar that's just like an insanely sick period of time old cigar, just like those Mayan cigars. They're like, they found some Mayan cigars that are like 600 years old at the time. They're probably a little over 600 years old now. I can't even imagine how crappy those cigars taste now. Probably not that good. They're 600 years old. Now, I have read that those cigars were found in a jar in a pretty much temperature controlled environment, like in a cave or whatever it is. So maybe at the time they were good, but I'm not sure now how that's going to turn out for those cigars. But of course, I read that where people smoked it and it was like, oh, this is incredible, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think that on social media has really perpetuated this whole myth that anything vintage is good, anything aged is good, and I would disagree with that myself personally, that not anything that's aged is good. If you have a shitty cigar and you age it, it's still a shitty aged cigar, period. End of story. You can't take an Iron Horse and age it for 20 years and expect that cigar to be a great cigar. You just can't. I mean, it's a shitty cigar. The quality of the tobacco is not there, to begin with, and everything like that. So, yeah. But some people really think that if you age anything, it's good, and I get it, but at the end of the day, if it's not good to begin with, and you can tell, you can tell if it's not good because it needs age, or it's not good because it's just not good. You can tell after a while. You can tell like what's what on that. Yeah, I'm talking more than smoking. But I really think that Cuba would have... They have something there if they could do that original taste for their cigars. I think that would be... I mean, they would sell out of that so fast, I think. The people that know would definitely buy that stuff up as quick as possible. Original taste. I think just go with that. Original taste Cuban cigars. I don't know. Another thing I've noticed too is like when I'm smoking a cigar, I don't know about you guys, 2019 Limitada. I haven't smoked any 2019 Limitadas yet, I don't think. I have to go back and let's see here. Let's see if I don't think I've smoked anything from 2019 that's limitada. It's going here. I think we can do it that way. Cuban Cigar website's a good website. Damn it. I thought that they had a limited edition section in the Cuban Cigar website. Okay, releases. And it's in there. Limited editions. Okay, here we go. Yeah, those ones are, yeah, they had a big deal with the Ramon Jonas number 2. The Cater Sage Senadores, the Monte Cristo Sopranos. Nope, I haven't smoked any of them. Maybe one of these days I will. Yeah, originally it was with that. I think that for a while there you could, and then the past administration put a stop to that, and then this administration hasn't done anything to reopen that at all. They just haven't done anything about that. So my answer would be no, that it's back to the old way of cigars. Now, I've heard that, the 2019 Limitadas, I mean, people have smoked them and they've said that they're good cigars, but once again, there's reviewers out there that do both non-Cuban and Cuban reviews that it seems like everything they smoke is the best thing that they've ever smoked, or it's a great cigar, and da-da-da-da-da. So, I don't know. I mean, as far as it goes for that, I would have to smoke it and see. Eventually I might get a hold of some of those. They're quite expensive, and I think they're kind of hard to come by now. But, I don't know. I've heard the Jonas number 2 is not that bad of a cigar. I've heard it's okay. And I think the Cater Say, actually, people are really enjoying those. I haven't heard much on the Monte Cristo Limitadas. But from my own personal experience, I can't say that my own personal experience counts because I haven't smoked them. I think some of the Grand Reserva stuff that they do, Florida Cano Elegados are good at only 4 euros. Okay. Here we go. Chris has got something going on here. Yeah, that's my thought too on that, is that it's back to the way that it was. That's my own personal thought as well, that they did that. Florida Cano Elegados, huh? Oh, it's a Robusto too. Huh. So there you go. One of 2 now in the portfolio, the Petit Coronas and the Elegados. Elegitos, I would imagine that they're called. Elegitos. Have to give those a shot. Yeah, that's another. The Florida kind of short Churchills are a unicorn cigar. Yeah. It's a nice little size cigar. I like a smaller ring gauge, longer and smaller ring gauge, but that may not be that bad. Have to give that a shot. Hey, Chad. Just sitting here in Southern California, living the life, smoking a cigar on camera, just chilling out. Answered a few questions on the YouTube questions there, and yeah, how you doing? How's everything going out there? Yeah, I just wish they would end that whole mess. Make it back. Yeah. And move forward a little bit, like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Crazy. Yikes. Oh, the website. That's something I wanted to talk about. Yeah. That thing, it's a stupid cigar website, and I've had more trouble trying to keep that thing up and just there. It's crazy. Here's a guy who had a question through email, and he has a problem that the cigar makes him sick. He's a new smoker, and basically, he's a new smoker and he's smoking cigars. So, and he's retrohaling the cigars right out the gate. So, that's like a double whammy, I think, personally. So, okay, there we go. Came back last year. So, so he's trying to, I just told him, yeah. I mean, one thing I didn't mention to him is that he mentioned in his reply to what I said was the fact that it's good to drink something and make sure you have a full stomach. Because I think when you're a new cigar smoker, I think that nicotine, depending on what kind of cigar you smoke and everything like that, it depends on how much nicotine and stuff like that is in the cigar. And I think that when you're a new cigar smoker, you get that kind of a nicotine buzz and everything like that, and that has a tendency to be a bit off-putting and kind of make you woozy and a little bit sick feeling and everything like that. So, yeah. Drink something, eat some food, and kind of like work your way through it. But at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying the cigar and you're getting sick, then maybe you should just not do it. So, anyway. Yeah, last time we talked, Chad, you were on your way back. So, now you're back. In the good old US of A. Yeah, so yeah, the aging part, got that. Yeah, I wanted to bring up that email from that guy because I know that if you don't have something to eat or drink while you're smoking a cigar, sometimes you can really. I mean, I remember when I lived in New York, I used to go to the Davidoff Lounge in Columbus Circle, which is no longer there. And they had this tiny, tiny little lounge in there, which could comfortably fit 8 to 10 people, and they would pack that thing full. There'd be like 15 people in there. I mean, it's all smoking cigars. And I remember being in that lounge and not having, just going in there and not eating anything like an idiot. I just went in there and was smoking, and by the time I left there, because their filtration system really sucked too, it just did not take the smoke away. It felt like I'd smoked like 5 cigars after smoking a couple of cigars in there, and it was like I felt sick. And yeah, so definitely want to have something in your stomach if you're going to do that. And chocolate's always a good thing to have too. I mean, chocolate a good thing to have. It goes well with a cigar anyway. Dark chocolate, I think. But yeah. So yeah. Here we are. Here we are. Oh, what was I gonna... Let me see here. Oh, that new Vagueros that I released, that actually... And we were talking about aging potential on cigars and so on and so forth. That cigar there, in that tin, it's actually... I think has some potential, some really good aging potential in that tin, and those cigars are. I think that they don't get the attention. I think that they just kind of treat them like, because it's a Vagueros, or a Quintero or a Vagueros or something like that. That's like a low budget brand that doesn't get a lot of the love and a lot of the attention. I think that they just kind of treat it like the old style cigars, and those Vagueros, I think that they definitely have some good aging potential to them as well. I've smoked a couple more out of that tin, and they seem to be getting a little bit better. So I've stopped smoking them. I'm just leaving them in the tin, letting them age, and we'll see how that goes. But I like those cigars. That's a budget cigar. That's not going to break your wallet. Although, those cigars are more expensive than the other ones that they have in the Vagueros line now, too, as well. But, yeah, I like those. Yeah, the Centrofinos. So you said, Myron, you said you're going to be smoking a cigar with a rosé. Is it like a Greek rosé or French rosé, or what kind of a rosé wine is that? Maybe he dropped off. Ah. Oh, bad combination? I would imagine, oh, really? It was too strong for that, really? Okay. So you're thinking, I don't know, maybe a darker red wine maybe would go with that? You ever done ouzo with your cigars? I would imagine that wouldn't be that great of a combination with that whole licorice kind of thing going on with the ouzo. Oh, really? There you go. We have a pairing. We have some pairing information here. That's good. HF Majestic and Rosé. Yeah, a lot of people don't drink wine. I mean, champagne they drink, but champagne, because of the acidity in it, kind of balances out the palate, so that's always a nice thing in there. Min Rodney likes to drink champagne with his cigars. Yeah, absolutely. I have done that on quite a few occasions, and it's a nice combination. It's a nice pairing, coffee and a cigar. Especially like in Portugal, you get those they call them a bica, the really strong coffee that they do that. You could sit out there on the terrace and drink a bica with the and smoke a cigar. It's a good combination. Definitely, I like that. Although I'm not like a true coffee drinker, I think, myself personally, because I like cream and sugar in my coffee. Although with the Portuguese coffee, though, I just put a little bit of sugar in that one. That one's good. And that's a great combination. Yeah, I mean, those tins are, like, great. I mean, you know, you could even, if you have cigars that fit in those tins, I think that if you hang on to those tins and then put, like, shorter cigars in there to age, I think that it would turn out pretty good for you, personally. Alright, I'm going to have to throw my glasses on here. Yeah. Yeah, I like the tins. Kind of like jars. Ah! Monty Petit and Mundos and coffee, yeah. Yeah, coffee's one of those things that just, you know, you get that acidity in there, that bitterness in there. Well, I'm glad I can help you out, Myron. Glad I can help you out. I'm here to help. Yeah. Yeah, so I've been reading up on Cuban cigar history. And, oh my gosh, I mean, what a tangled web. It'd be nice to go back and do something from the start, because I mean, as far as Cuban cigar history goes, I mean, the Spanish are definitely intertwined with Cuban cigar history. The Spanish, the English actually, the French, and the Americans are all kind of intertwined with Cuban cigar history. And, the Spanish, of course, was Christopher Columbus, who originally landed on Hispaniola, and then they cruised the northeastern portion of Cuba in, 1492, brought back tobacco, and then by the 1500s, early 1500s, they started, in on Cuba, which Velasquez who was on the island of Hispaniola, and then he went over to Cuba. Basically, they took over Cuba. Let's just say that, and he founded 6 cities in Cuba. Originally, Havana was not where it is today. Originally, Havana was on the south side of the island, and Havana then became on the northern side of the island, the northwestern side of the island. And what I didn't know was that originally gold was a thing in Cuba. So a lot of the spots were started because they were mining for gold and finding gold in Cuba. And then when the gold ran out, then they started, growing tobacco as a cash crop. And then sugar became a big thing as well. And so tobacco and sugar became a huge cash crop for Spain. And but the problem with it, though, is Spain monopolized the tobacco trade in Cuba, along with all their other territories. As a matter of fact, what you may or may not know, is the fact that they exported seeds to the Philippines. And actually, Philippine cheroots were more popular than Cuban cigars back in the day. And that's just a little thing of note on there as far as history goes for tobacco. And so the problem is that Spain monopolized the tobacco trade, and so they monopolized that as far back as like the 1540s or whatever it was. And so if you had tobacco in Cuba, you couldn't export it to the Americas or France or England or any of that other countries. They monopolized it. And what was it, in 1752, I believe, because there was a huge war, and it was I want to get the date right, because I didn't know this. Of course, it's not there. Let me see here. Oh yeah, there it is. So in 1762 to 1763, Britain actually occupied Havana, Cuba, and it was they went from having 20 boats a week or whatever it was to like hundreds of boats a week. The trade between Cuba and the rest of the world for that year was the most in history for the goods from Cuba, which were like rum, sugar, tobacco, fruits. And basically what happened is they had the treaty, and then England gave back Cuba to the Spanish. And then they got Florida. And then later on they ceded Florida somehow. Whatever, Florida became Spanish territory again back later. But after that point, though, the whole world really pretty much got turned on to a lot of the Cuban goods, and it kind of changed the game. And then they actually, in the early 1800s, they finally made it to where you could manufacture and export and so on and so forth from Cuba in the early 1800s, and that's when the cigar factories started popping up. I think Cabanas was like the first or the second registered brand in Cuba, like in 1811 or something like that. And then we know the story of Partagas coming up, and Por La Renaga, and all the other brands that actually came up in the 1800s that were manufacturing stuff. But the Cuban cigar history is really interesting, how basically it was a monopoly for hundreds of years. And then it wasn't until like the late 1700s, early 1800s where things really started to escalate. And then, of course, we had the revolution, and then that kind of solidified everything all together into one thing. All the people lost their, factories and all that other kind of stuff that got taken up by the state. So, but yeah, the history is just pretty amazing. I mean, there, the way the Spanish did it was, the way that they did it, not that agreeable with what the things that they did and so on and so forth. But that helped to, they're definitely an integral part to the history of Cuba and tobacco, cigars. So I've been reading a lot about that and working on that. It's kind of like something that I would like to put together eventually. But anyway, getting back to the website. Yeah, for a stupid website that I've had more trouble with that freaking website, trying to figure out what's going on with why someone would want to hack, hijack, whatever, a dumb website that's, that I'm just posting YouTube videos on and stuff like that. I have no clue. I've had more trouble with that website. And the thing is yeah, I could spend a bunch of money on, making it more secure or whatever, da-da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, it's just me, and I don't have the funds to do it. So that's why, if, the Patreon thing could get going, people could start contributing money on Patreon, I could get some money to, like, do a, have it up there and be secure and so on and so forth, and, maybe do a blog or whatever, all that other kind of stuff. But at the present time, the website is what it is. So, unfortunately, because it had some good information on there as well, because I put up the information videos, and I could tell people just go over there and you could pull up the video, as opposed to, like, because people ask me questions all the time on certain cigar info things and stuff like that. So there was tobacco in so tobacco goes back to the Mayans, back thousands of years. And so what I have read is that actually tobacco, they don't really know how tobacco was disseminated throughout the Caribbean and, Mexico and up through North America and all that kind of stuff. But there was tobacco in North America. There was a bit of tobacco, but in 1762, I think it was Putnam. He went to the Connecticut area. I think it's Israel Putnam. I'm not sure. He had, like, I don't know, 100,000 or 500,000 tobacco seeds that he brought to Connecticut, and he started to grow a Cuban varietal of tobacco in in Connecticut. And also there was tobacco in Virginia because they were growing and exporting tobacco from the colonies in the 1600s. So that was definitely happening way before the New World and everything like that. So there was tobacco there. The quality of the tobacco wasn't as good as the Cuban tobacco, and the price per pound was a lot cheaper for the tobacco. But also when they did the indentured servitude and whatever stuff that they did to bring people over to the colonies and stuff, and they were using tobacco as collateral for this indentured servitude and so on and so forth. So the tobacco was there. It just, I believe it was Israel Putnam. Yeah, I can look that up and rabbit hole that, but it was when Great Britain occupied Havana in 1762 is when he got the seeds and brought them back to Connecticut. That's the way the story goes with that. And it took, it's taken a few hundred years for the tobacco to be the way it is now, the Connecticut, which is definitely a different tobacco strain from what the Cuban tobacco is. But it originated from that Cuban black tobacco is what I've read so far on now. But there was tobacco. There's, I think, cave writings or whatever that shows the ancient Mayans smoking cigars, is what they call them, back in the day. And like I said, they found that clay pots with the Mayan cigars in them that were like hundreds of years old in that cave, which some guy from Florida or something like that bought them all up in a auction a number of years back, and he's been holding on to them. So tobacco was here. It wasn't the Cuban black tobacco. And actually, they were growing tobacco in Hispaniola. They had tobacco there, and but it was with the Cuban history, Columbus did definitely get the tobacco from the Cubans, and they brought it home. I mean, originally, I think that the way the story goes is Columbus's original voyage over there, they were in the Bahamas, I think. They gave the people in the Bahamas gave them tobacco, and they threw it away. And then it wasn't until Rodrigo de Jerez and a buddy of his, they were tromping around on the Cuban island there, where they saw the natives smoking the tobacco, that they grabbed it, and then they picked up the habit. And then Rodrigo de Jerez, actually, when he went back to Spain, he was smoking, and they put him in prison for 6 or 7 years because of the fact that there was nobody but a demon could blow smoke out their nose and their mouth. Nobody but a demon could do that. But after he got out of prison, the whole tobacco habit kind of caught on. So that would suck. You bring. What's channel? Is that something for websites? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been working on that. I actually had the thing locked down with I had a bunch of WordPress stuff in there, some security stuff in there, and it still got hacked. So the only way to really truly, I think, to do it though is to because I'm an IT guy too, as well as a flight attendant. But first of all, you have to sit on it and really be active with it. And I just don't have the time to just be active with that site all the time. Kind of want to set it and forget it, and then just add to it. And so they have services where it monitors your thing, but it's a monthly fee to do that every month. It costs money, and it's like, I to put up a monthly fee on this thing to have it monitored and backed up and everything like that, and have all this stuff checked out. It's a bit of money per month and per year, and it's like, it's money out of my pocket that is going to go to that. And so at the end of the day, I don't have all of the funds to be able to do that. So, it gets hacked. I redo it, put it back up there, try and do more security stuff on there. I'm going to probably change the hosting service and go with a more mainstream hosting service and figure that out and go from there and go that direction. And then, because I found that with certain hosting services, the security on there is not all that great. So, yeah. But I just did. So I was reading on my phone of the email, the hosting service that I have. I used to be able to call them on the phone, and then they used COVID as an excuse so that you can't call them. So now I have to email them, and then shit gets lost in translation because I don't think that English is their first language, and so I'm running into a problem with things getting lost in translation, and then I'm going back and forth, and it's like, I can waste a half a day dealing with these people, and it's like I've got better things to do than waste half my day trying to figure out, or trying to get things working. So, yeah. But yeah, Fiverr, yeah. But anyway, so it's just kind of a labor of love, and I do it when I do it, and I'll just see. I think changing the hosting service will help considerably, though, on that. I think it's going to help out quite a bit. But it may not. I mean, maybe it's just like such a great domain name. SmokingVintageCigars.com is just such a great domain name that people want to sabotage it. I don't know. It's amazing to me. Yeah, it's amazing to me how people have got nothing better to do than to hack a website for information on cigars. It's just amazing. I'm not selling anything. I've actually had people like email me about like, well, you sell cigars, and I was like, no, I don't. I don't sell cigars. I don't sell cigars. I'm not a cigar merchant. So get that out of your head. I'm just a person that loves smoking cigars and collecting information on cigars and doing stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. But for those of you that have tried to go to the website, that's what's going on right now. So it'll be back when I get the time to do it. But I'm not doing other things. So oh, Chris, you're going to make me put my glasses on again. Yeah, well, you got Salem for that. Yeah. Yeah. But cigar history is pretty interesting. Because, and I'm trying to find definitive proof, like when they, because, originally they were shipping the leaf over to Europe, and, that's quite a bit of space that it would take up in a cargo ship. So, I thought I had read somewhere that they started rolling it in cigars in Cuba and shipping it over, like in the 1600s, but everything that I've tried to find so far has not said that. So, I'm not sure when that was happening. I don't know. I do know when they first started, when they were able to register brands and stuff like that was in the 1800s, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, when they were able to do that. Nice twig in there. But I thought it was sooner than later. That's another work in progress. Yeah. I'm just amazed at how much time people have on their hands to mess with other people's things on the internet, which are like so inconsequential that it's just pathetic. That you're that much of a loser, you really want to mess with things like that. So it's like, what do you have to gain from that? Nothing. Not a thing. So it's not like I'm gaining anything from the site other than the fact of my satisfaction of being able to disseminate information to people. All right, Myron. Be well. So if any of you ever have a chance to check out the Aganorsa Signature Selection, which is what I'm smoking now, um, hopefully you'll have a better experience with it than I will. I mean, like I said, the stuff in the box says it's like 2 years old when it was put in the box. Like these are from 2019. So aged in the box, cheap. And when these things smoke good, they smoke good. So yeah, things are a lot more happier, I guess, than the last time I did a live stream. Just wanted to do something real quick, get it out there and all that kind of stuff, so people can play it back or whatever and comment on it and all that kind of happy stuff. Yeah, because I thought I did the time on here. Oh, there it is. Wow, 2 hours. That's a long time. Yeah, it does fly. I can't believe I've been smoking this cigar like about 2 hours. I've been talking a lot though, so that cuts into it a little bit. Yeah. So anyway, getting to the end of my cigar there. It's getting a little hot. Getting a little bitter. And it's been 2 hours that I've been on here. So I think I'm going to roll on out of here. But glad that I was able to talk to some people and mention some things and all that other kind of stuff. And I'll be doing this when I do it. I'm not sure. I'm not on any schedule anymore or anything like that. But I'll just kind of pop in, and if people join in, that's great. But it's good talking with all you guys. And I guess that's it. I'm going to sign off now. So I will see everybody later.